Episode 214, IRONMAN 70.3 Indian Wells with Barkley Hope. Welcome to the pursuit of the perfect race. I'm Coach Terry Wilson, and with each episode, I bring stories of athletes to you that share their experiences at races in order for you to learn how to have your perfect race. We will hear stories from athletes of all ages, abilities, and races of all distances. So regardless of where you fit in, there's something in there for you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let the pursuit begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to the pursuit of the perfect race. Today I'm talking with Barkley Hope about her recent race at IRONMAN 70.3 Indian Wells that took place on December 9th, 2018, where the water temperature was 55 degrees and the temperature on race day was around 40 to 71 degrees. She had an amazing time of 4 hours, 56 minutes, and 2 seconds, which allowed her to place second in her age group. Welcome to the show, Barkley. I look forward to talking about your race.
Thank you.
So, what made you want to do this race in the first place?
My mom lives in Palm Springs, so I figured I had to do the inaugural year, and it was an easy race to do because I had so much support with her living there.
Nice. So, what's your background in the sport look like? How long have you been in the sport? What made you want to get into triathlon in the first place?
I've been doing tries for about 5 years. And my background, I was an age group swimmer from 4 until age 17. And then I started running cross country. And I've self-identified as a runner for all these years. And I was curious to try Ironman. So I got into the sport about 5 years ago.
Nice. So how have you liked it so far?
It's a minor obsession.
Minor?
Addiction. Yeah, I love it. I for sure love it. Yeah.
Wow. So going into this race, how was your training?
It was not like I would have liked it to be. I was hit by a car in July.
Wow.
So, I spent a lot of time on the couch through August and started training again in September. And I didn't do a single brick my entire training. So I wasn't sure how the race was going to go, but, I just had so much passion trying to overcome a car accident like that. So I had a lot of passion and anger at the same time to try to race really hard. So I think that's kind of what got me through it.
Wow.
Not necessarily my training was on point.
Yeah. So as far as your training goes, what was your longest swim, bike, and run going into this race?
So my longest swim, I think I did one 5K swim, but usually I swim between 3 and 4. My longest bike was 60, which is obviously not ideal, but I have a spine injury that hurts on the bike more than anything else. So, and I'm quite fearful on the bike at this point. So doing long bikes just hasn't worked out for me yet. So close to the accident. So I did several 50s and 1 or 2 60s.
Wow.
And then running, I did one 13-mile run, but I did several 10s and 11s.
Wow. So did you have a certain plan that you wanted to use?
I did as much of my coach's plan as I could, as much as was comfortable. And I definitely jerry-rigged some workouts to make them work with my back. And my coach is fortunately understanding.
Who's your coach?
So Matt Dixon, whom I love. I think he's genius.
Wow. So were y'all doing a lot of strength sections or even yoga going into this race?
So I'm a little bit lazy in the weight room, so I prefer to do yoga instead. So I do yoga pretty religiously once a week, sometimes twice, depending.
Now, is that hot yoga?
No, it's a flow yoga, hatha.
So just go through the motions, relax, and space out?
Not exactly. I have drill sergeants for yoga teachers. And they cut me no slack because they figure I'm tough and, I should be pushed, which I appreciate. It's good. But it's a good way to do strength and, center yourself, I think.
Yeah. So as far as your day-to-day nutrition in training, what does this look like? Do you meal prep? How do you manage your weight? Because I know a lot of folks actually struggle with weight loss or weight gain.
Yeah.
Are you where you want to be with your weight? What does this look like?
I'm definitely not where I want to be, but I feel like I'm where I have to be. I struggle with any sort of deprivation. And frankly, I don't like to think about food. So I eat, what I crave, and I'm a pretty healthy eater anyway. I think a lot of people struggle when they first start with endurance training to change their relationship with food in a way that, you eat in order to train. And I figured it out about a year into this, that I needed to eat in order to train. And I let go of what my body might look like and just try to fuel myself for my workouts. And that's what I do. I'd love to be leaner than I am. I'm not as lean as a lot of the other women, but I feel strong and I just try not to overstress it. I spent so many years as a runner stressing about my weight, and it's like that muscle is just fatigued and can't do it anymore.
Right. So it seems like you judge yourself mentally about your weight.
Yeah. Definitely, for sure. Yeah. But, I can't stick to a meal plan. I feel like it doesn't work with my lifestyle, as ridiculous as that sounds, because I know it should be a priority, but raising kids and whatnot, when they have mac and cheese, if it looks good, I might have a bite. We drink a lot of milkshakes in my household, and I'm okay with it.
Gosh, my wife, we go to this place called Hutchins, and they have bacon mac and cheese.
Oh,
it's amazing.
See?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But I only get a bite.
Yourself?
I only get a bite though.
Maybe 3
containers.
Yeah.
Man, so how have you changed your perception of yourself over the course of time in triathlon with this? Because I know a lot of females actually deal with the same thing that you're talking about, of feeling bad because you weigh so much whenever you really don't.
Yeah. So I remember my very first Ironman event was Lake Stevens 70.3. And the day before, we did the kids run. And I was standing there watching the pros lead the warm-ups, and then they led the kids through the race. And the female pro was doing this squat warm-up exercise. And I remember being absolutely flabbergasted that she had some cellulite. And I was so pleasantly surprised. And I just remember being floored, because in the world of running, which was the world I was most familiar with, in my adult years, it's not that way at all. And here was this woman that I respected immensely. And she was a bigger woman, and she looked healthy to me. And I loved that. And from that moment on, I so remember being struck by this. It was an absolute, I was floored by it, and I loved it at the same time. And I was like, this is the sport for me. Women are bigger. Real. She was real. And, and I like her personality on top of it. And, her message to girls is incredible. But I just remember thinking, I love being around these women that drink beer after they race and, they eat pizza at the finish line and, coming from this, I grew up as a swimmer and women are big, they're like big, bulky, incredibly strong swimmers. And then to go to running, it was very difficult, and women look each other up and down before running races. And I remember that same first race, I remember thinking women were so supportive of each other, and they weren't looking each other up and down, analyzing, their BMI. They were, just greeting each other and congratulating each other for being part of the sport, which I love. I love triathlon because of this.
Wow. So too bad the race that you're talking about, I want to say St. Stephen's, but it's Lake Stevens.
Lake Stevens.
Yeah, they don't do that race anymore.
No, it was a great race. It was amazing. It had some killer hills on the bike. It was a beautiful race.
Wow.
But the people of Lake Stevens were not that thrilled, I think.
Right. I think the last year of that was 2015, I think.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah.
So going into this race, knowing that you had a bike wreck back in July and then you had a little training, what workouts did you do that gave you the confidence to go into Indian Wells prepared?
So because I couldn't do any speed at all, not on the bike, not on the run, not in the pool. So I ended up doing more, I would run like 15-minute miles, but I would run uphill on the trails. And, slowly I started to feel stronger, through September, October. And in the pool, I knew that I couldn't, like flip turning, I couldn't do that for the longest time.
Really?
And I was a hot mess.
Wow.
So I decided that I would just work on my technique instead. And, I tried to think of strength with everything that I was doing. And on the bike, I was riding like a 60 cadence. I just couldn't do I had no turnover, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I just tried to think strength.
So what workouts did you do that said, okay, we checked all the boxes going into this race, I'm ready?
Well, I never got to that place, unfortunately. I felt like it was just a big gamble, which it's not ideal, and a lot of people said to me, a lot of other athletes said to me, you should withdraw from this race. You're not ready. Your body's not ready. You're still injured. Your training hasn't been there. And I said, hell no, no way. I'm doing this. So it's really important to me to do it, even if it was less than ideal circumstances. And I just tried to put in the time, and it was less time than I would normally do, but I just I was so grateful to be out there training. It didn't really matter the duration. I tried to do as much as I could do, but I just let go of the end result.
You let go of the expectations.
I did. I really did. Like if my back was out and I couldn't run for 60 minutes, I maybe went for a walk, or maybe I did the elliptical, or maybe I did nothing, and I just tried to let go of it. And I've been trying to practice more gratitude. And, so that's kind of been a theme. I've struggled with it because I'm mad about the accident. It shouldn't have happened. But I'm also so grateful that I wasn't more injured, and that the injury that I do have is cooperating.
So what actually happened? Being that you got hit by a car, did something like I picture you're riding on a 2-lane road and somebody just comes up and smears you off the road. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, I was on a highway. I was on a 4-lane highway, and I was turning. I was making a left-hand turn across the highway from the bike lane, and a pig farmer that has to deal with cyclists every day on this particular highway in Portland. It's like the only highway that connects a lot of these different bike rides. And it's a terrible highway. It's a dangerous highway, but we all ride it in small portions to get to certain bike rides. And I think he just was fed up, and I was the lucky one. So he hit me. He literally rear-ended me with his van in my back.
Wow.
In my lower back. Yeah.
Did he stop?
So, he stopped. I was fortunately riding with a teammate, and he stopped, although he tried to leave the scene and didn't cooperate with the insurance companies for 6 weeks. But he's a Vietnam vet, and I think I could go on with a lot of detail about this. It was not a very fair scenario.
How did because I know at the very first instance, if like you get hit, one, you're going to be in shock, and then you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this really happened. And then you're going into this, oh my gosh, I'm not really going to feel the pain till like hours later. But then he tries to leave, and then this panic of, oh my gosh, I'm not ever going to get, how am I going to get to the hospital? How am I going to, all this panic. Do I have my cell phone? Did my cell phone break?
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't even that. Fortunately, I was with a teammate that handled everything, and there was a ton of amazing people that stopped to help me. But I mean, I went into shock immediately, and it was not a great scenario, but I did get lucky. It's hard to say you got lucky when you got hit by a car when it should have never happened, but I did get lucky as far as car accidents go. And I had, thank God. I mean, I ride alone all the time, like so many of us do. And fortunately on that day I had a teammate with me, and he took care of the situation for me and got me, got 911 called, and they were there almost immediately. So I was very lucky.
Wow. So did this leave you with poor confidence handling the bike, or poor confidence on the bike? Because that had to have like some kind of lasting impression on you.
For sure. And again, I have these amazing friends that, they put up with me, because I'm a hot mess on the bike. I'm super panicky, and I cried my first time out, and I still shake when I go out on the bike. Like fully physically shake my whole body. It's ridiculous, but I know that it's going to get better in time, and it has. And fortunately, I had the support of people to take me almost as soon as I could walk again, we decided to go out and just soft pedal on the bike. And I went out near where the accident happened. And I'm really glad I did that, because, had I not, I don't think I'd be biking today. I think I would have, fear takes over, and it's so hard to conquer as time passes.
Man, so how is your coach working with you through this?
He was like, just don't worry about anything, and if anything, he said, you're pushing too hard, just take it easy, which I appreciated, because I was so angry, and I felt so robbed. And I also wanted to prove to myself that I wouldn't be injured forever, that I could, I would be healthy again at some point. And so I rushed my recovery, and he really encouraged me to just take time. And I was so emotionally traumatized by the whole thing. I had terrible PSD. I mean, even driving, I'm a different driver now today than I was before this happened to me.
Wow. So for people that haven't been in a wreck like this, what is something that you would tell them to be aware of if they ever are in a wreck?
Well, certainly I've learned a lot about car insurance, from a driver's perspective and from a cyclist's perspective. And I think that we as cyclists, the Oregon laws, I'm not impressed with. I mean, I'll just say that they are not ideal. And Portland is supposed to be bike town, and we are not, as it turns out. Our laws do not protect cyclists at all, in spite of all of our bike lanes. But I think that cyclists think that if they are hit, you know, it's a no fault situation. And as it turns out, it's not that way. So I wish that I would have immediately hired an attorney to handle the accident for me. And if I had it all to do over again, that's what I would do. But I figured, I was like, you know, this is a slam dunk. I was rear-ended. I had the right of way. I signaled. I was with another person that also signaled. Witnesses said I signaled. You know, what could go wrong? I was rear-ended. And I should have hired an attorney right away.
Wow. That's crazy. Like I would never even, because I would think just like you, hey, it's a slam dunk. I'm on a
slam
bike.
Dunk.
He has a car. He hit me. I'm like not able to defend myself. He has like this metal box cage. I have my jersey.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's not that way. It's not that way at all. And unless you are, you know, paralyzed, you have to sustain such severe injuries, and then it's fine. But if you have, like, I have a herniated disc and this puncture wound in my tailbone, you know, which will potentially bother me for the next, I don't even know how many decades. And I have whiplash.
The rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, potentially it could be for the rest of my life, you know? But they're like, well, you can walk, so you're okay, you know?
I mean, if walking defines somebody being okay, what about the people that don't have legs? I mean, they're walking.
I know.
Are they okay?
It's not a good situation. And so it's left me now. I always assume that cars are going to hit me. That's how I ride my bike now. I assume that they don't know what they're doing, because they don't. So oftentimes they don't know how to drive with cyclists. And a lot of cyclists also ruin it for the rest of us. And, you know, they weave in and out of cars, and, you know.
I would go off on a limb here and say that certain people that ride bikes give cyclists a bad name. Because
absolutely,
the people that ride their commuters to and from work without a helmet, that's not us. We wear helmets, we have spandex, and we know what we're doing on a bike. The people that are wearing khakis with backpacks going back and forth to work because it's faster than driving a car, they're not the same type of athletes we are.
No. It's, and they have every right to be on a bike, you know, nevertheless, but it's a different type of riding. And I think cars get confused. And I also think that, you know, these kids get their driver's licenses and they're not educated on how to drive with cyclists. So when you live in a city and it's a bike friendly city, it's very confusing to cars.
Or like how younger drivers text and drive.
Oh yeah.
Play on their phone and drive.
Yes. That's everything. Yeah. The texting is, you know, and I think about how I was a much less secure cyclist when I started 5 years ago, yet there was even less texting 5 years ago than there is today. And, you know, I felt safer 5 years ago. And now it's, you know, we're all on maps and Waze, and it's so dangerous. Right. I don't know what the answer is, but they better figure it out.
Right. So to kind of get back on track here, what was the most hours of training you did in 1 week going into this race?
I did 17.
17 hours of training.
Yeah. Wow. Once or twice.
So aside from training, what else do you have on your plate?
I have 2 boys, 2 wild boys. Almost 10 and 16.
Wow.
So they're super busy. And I'm a single mom.
Wow.
So that's my full-time gig. And other than that, I have a fur baby. That's my favorite child. I spend a lot of time with my fur baby. And that's pretty much it.
Wow. So how difficult is it for you to manage life and training? Do you work as well?
I only work, fortunately for me, I only work a couple hours a week.
Okay.
It's super minimal at this point. So I'm very blessed. So I try to do the bulk of my training when they're at school. And then they do a lot of afternoon activities. So I just try to squeeze in workouts.
Wow.
And sometimes it's like a 30-minute workout here, 30 minutes there, but it works out in the end, usually.
Okay. So with training 17 hours a week, spending time with your two boys and your little baby, a fur, were there any days where you just mentally didn't want to train?
Oh, for sure. I feel like it goes in cycles. I feel like I have motivated weeks with, maybe a day or two of dread in there. And then, which I think is normal, I have these periods where for 5 days in a row, it's just a struggle. And I think it's really hard too when life is happening, when it's New Year's or the 4th of July or spring break and everyone's having fun, yet you still have these workouts. It's like a monkey on your back and you have to get them done. And then sometimes I become resentful, and then I'm like, what am I doing? My life feels so imbalanced, but I think it's pretty normal.
Right. But now I know you've been to Kona, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being that you've done Kona already, why do you still do this? I mean, you don't really have to do this anymore. You've already been to the World Championship. I mean, why keep doing it?
I just love it. I love it. It's the one thing in my life that is mine that I feel like I'm in complete control over. And, if somebody's sick or some crisis happens, it's all up to me how I manage my time and fit these workouts in. And, it's like my little piece of heaven that no one can take away from me, unless I let them. And I do sometimes. I let people sabotage my training sessions and, I can be convinced to, skip a long workout to go have fun with friends or to go out of town or whatever it is. But yeah, it's the one thing that's mine. I love it.
Wow. So I know you're a runner and you're a running background. Have you thought about giving up triathlon and going for Boston or the Big Six?
Yes, I have. So the reason I chose triathlon in the first place, I got divorced and I was debating between trying to qualify for the trials and the marathon, which I thought I'd always do. And then there was just never the right time. And I had kids and, marriage and divorce and businesses and whatever. And, so I decided I was going to take on this athletic goal. And so I was debating between that and Ironman. And I thought, well, it would be so cool to go do an Ironman and have that be my very first triathlon. Go from couch to Ironman. I thought that'd be amazing. And I thought it was funny. And I thought, well, I've got my swimming background. I haven't swam in 20 years, but I can get back in swim shape. And I've run a bunch of marathons. Like, how hard can it be? I just have to learn to ride a bike. And I didn't even own a bike. I had a beach cruiser. And so I decided that Ironman scared me more than the Olympic trials did. And so I started and I told a couple friends, and then my friends told the rest of my friends, like, oh, Barklett's going to go do an Ironman. And I didn't even own a bike yet. And then finally I bought a bike and I could not ride it at all. And I was like, oh shit, I think I got in over my head. I'm not sure I can actually achieve this goal. And I had always watched Kona on TV and I thought, if I work really hard, like that's got to be attainable. I had no idea, what I was in for, but I quickly became obsessed with it. And I loved that I was so bad at it. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. There's, you've got the nutrition and how do you do these brick workouts? And again, how do you ride a bike? There's so many
moving parts. And how does all this work together to get perfection?
Yes. And the balance of life. And, you can't do certain workouts with other workouts, back to back. And it fascinated me. I just loved being so inept.
Wow. So how did you get your slot for Kona?
So my very first Ironman was Coeur d'Alene, and it was the year that it was 106 degrees. And at that point, I was so terrified to do it anyway. I was like, what's the worst that happen? And I placed 10th. And I was like, all right, that's not bad. That's all right. Maybe I can improve. And so then I did Coeur d'Alene the next year, and I had, really become a triathlete in that following year. I figured it out. I dialed in my nutrition. And
is that when you got with Matt?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I know. And so I went for it. I mean, that was my goal. I knew that I could do it. I needed to have a perfect day, and it all worked out that day.
Wow. That is awesome.
Thank you.
So to kind of go back to this race here, when did you actually start booking your travel? Did you have to worry about travel at all? Because were you just going to drive from Portland down to Indian Wells or fly down there with your bike?
Yeah, I flew down. I flew down with my bike and with one of my children on Wednesday. And I like to get to races on Wednesdays, Thursday at the latest. Just get situated. And there's always so much to do, I feel like, before a race.
Right. So being that you flew with your bike, do you have to worry about putting it together? I know you said you don't really like to do stuff with your bike, but how did you put it in a box and then pack it, then get it back and put it together?
Hashtag bike stupid. And I had to have teammates come over and do it for me. Yeah.
Teammates?
Yeah. They came over and packed my bike for me because I've never done it by myself. I don't trust myself. If I work on my bike, I don't feel safe on it. So I like to steer clear of that.
Wow. So
mechanics are always trying to teach me, and I'm like, no, it's all right. We're good. You do it.
So do you know how to change a flat then?
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yes. The short is yes, but it's not cute. It takes me quite some time. Wow. I've improved, but I can do it without fully panicking, but I pray to the flat gods before every race.
Man. So being that you've done a few races, including Kona, how was the Ironman Village here?
I thought it was phenomenal.
Really?
I thought it was great. I thought it felt more like an Ironman Village than, they're always more substantial than a 70.3. And I thought the tennis center was amazing. I thought they did a great job. I was very impressed, especially for the first year.
Wow. So going into this race, what was your bike check-in and drop-off like?
Well, that's the only thing that I would say was problematic.
Problematic?
Well, it was two different exchange areas, and there were so many athletes. The exchange areas were giant. The bike drop off the day before was fine. It was very smooth. Everyone was very helpful. The race morning was super hectic. They ran into a traffic problem. And so I myself was probably held up for 20 minutes in traffic. So when I got to the race start, I had about 12 minutes to get, my nutrition on my bike, to get my wetsuit on and out of the transition area. I mean, it was absolute mayhem. Like people were running into each other. people were getting hit with this, that, and the other. It was super hectic.
Wow. Well, let's get to that here in a minute and talk more about the day before. You're going to drop everything off. What would happen at the other exchange?
Super smooth. It was at the tennis center. Drop your run gear. It was a very organized exchange area.
Could you access your run gear race morning?
It would have been hectic to do so. I know some people had to do that.
Because from a nutrition standpoint, some people have to use a certain nutrition on the run.
Right.
And it can't be just sitting out in the sun all day.
Right. So it looked to me like some people got in there. I mean, I think that they let people in, but it wasn't conducive to getting to the race start if you did that.
Right. Because how far away is the transition 1 to transition 2? How far away is that?
15 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes. By car.
Wow. So the day before the race, after you drop everything off, I know you have to go and dunk your wetsuit here.
Mm-hmm.
How was that process? This is something
that was
new.
A trip. So they had kiddie pools, and they lined you up around the kiddie pool, and you had to do it at the same time. You had to hold it in there for 10 or 15 seconds. And if you had a thermal cap or booties, which I had, those had to be dunked as well. And then you safety pin it all together. You had to have your name on your items, and then you left them in the tent. It was a total trip. It really was. Yeah. But it added, so in transition 1, so you had your wetsuit there at one end of the transition, and then you had your bike gear at another. So you've got people going back and forth.
So if you didn't bring your wetsuit with you and your cap and booties to T1 the first time, you had to drop your bike off, then go back to your hotel, Airbnb, go get it, then bring it back in order just to check it in the day before.
Yes.
Because you have to clean it. You can't do that the morning of.
Nope. And you had to have this red tag on your items proving that it had been dunked. It had been desanitized. And if you didn't have it, they wouldn't let you start race morning.
So that's so crazy. So how was the organization of the wetsuit tent?
I just don't think it was large enough, you know? I think it was, I honestly think it was as good as it could have been, for a first year. Do I think that they'll improve upon it for next year? Absolutely. It was so much more hectic than your average
it added
transition
an extra
area.
Step.
It did. It really did. And the other thing that was so interesting is on race morning, you exited the lake. You had to put your wetsuit back in your bike bag. You had to then run your bike bag with you've got your bike gear on. You've got your wetsuit now in your bike bag. And then you chucked it over this wall, and you're crossing your fingers that it's all going to get back to you, because otherwise your wetsuit's lost. So there was just more to think about. Right.
So being that this was more stressful with you, did this create anxiety for you?
You know,
not during the race, but the day before.
I had a checklist that I wouldn't have otherwise had.
A checklist
of just no brainer, you know. I was just rehearsing it in my head, and in ways that, like, it was on one hand, it was something to think about, something to focus my energy on. But on your typical race, you're not worried about that. You know that you just leave your wetsuit right there, you know, and you get it back, and it's okay. Yeah.
Wow.
It was a little stressful.
So the day before the race, what kind of nutrition are you getting? Are you monitoring your nutrition, trying to get a certain breakfast, lunch, and dinner in? Does this really matter to you? What is this like?
My coach is big on eating like any normal day. So I try to do that.
Okay.
You know, I mean, growing up in the 90s with like pasta feeds and all that, a little bit on a subconscious level, I feel like it's like you have to have pasta before a race. And I know that's such archaic thinking, but I'm still stuck in it. So I always eat some pasta before a race, but I'm not too superstitious about my meal choice or anything like that.
Right. So you get everything situated in transition and you drop everything off at both transitions. The night before, what time are you trying to go to bed?
I try to go to bed at 8, but it usually turns out to be 9.
Okay. So I know before you go to bed, you're laying out your nutrition. Walk me through your nutrition plan for the race in general, from the time you wake up to the time you actually finish the race. What's your nutrition plan?
Including what I eat for breakfast?
Yeah.
I always eat eggs.
Okay.
And then I eat some sort of a carbohydrate. I always eat a whole avocado.
Really?
Got to think about that. Always.
A lot of fat.
Yes. And I always drink coffee. Always.
Got to get things moving.
With milk. Love it. Yeah, I eat until I'm full, which it's so hard at that hour, as you know.
So what kind of carbs are you getting for breakfast?
Bad carbs, like a bagel. I love my bagels. Yeah.
That's the runner coming out?
That's the runner. Yep. All runners seem to have a bagel or oatmeal on race morning. So I'm stuck in that too. Old habits die hard. Yeah, I don't overhydrate at all. I might have some more calories, like a banana or something before, when I get to the race start. But I don't try to, pack it all in like some people do. I think that leads to problems personally, but
okay,
that might just be me.
What time of day are you wanting to get breakfast before you head to transition?
I try to do it 3 hours before race start.
Okay. How did you get to that number?
Yeah. I'm sure I don't really know, to be honest. I'm sure it was through trial and error and I just figured it out. Yeah.
Well, that's a good number. I mean, that's what most people do is 3 hours. Some do 2.5, some do 3, some do 3.5, but most of the time it's 3.
Yeah.
So that's for your breakfast. Are you eating anything else before you hop in the water?
Maybe a banana or, maybe some blocks.
And then
maybe.
I know we talked before we hopped on here, but you want to get about 300 calories on the bike, which is the Cliff Blocks and some maltodextrin that you make yourself. Mm-hmm. What is this like?
It's like a science project. I heard about it. So I make a little malto concoction. The flip side is you're carrying extra weight with it being pre-made, but it doesn't upset my stomach. So
do you struggle with it?
I haven't, no, well, knock on wood. No.
Well, good.
So I haven't altered anything yet.
So that's the bike. You're getting about 300 calories an hour.
Mm-hmm.
What about the run? Are you using gels like runners do?
Yes, I do. Like runners. Exactly. And I use gels in the same way I would if I was running a half iron or a half marathon. Yeah.
Which is what? Every 30 minutes?
Yeah. So, like 5 and 10 miles or 5 and 11 miles. Yeah. I would have a gel. But for this race, I experienced something very different for the very first time ever, which was being so cold during the swim. I felt a little bit of heat stroke on the run and I couldn't take in any calories for the very first time ever. There was no way.
You felt so cold that you had a heat stroke?
That's I think said. Yes, that's what I said. I was bordering, hypothermia on the swim. I was so cold. And I think that then I overheated and no, I was freezing on the bike, freezing until the very end. In the last 5 miles, I finally warmed up. But then on the run, it was 71 degrees or 72 degrees. And we were in the direct sun on the golf course. And I felt very hot, too hot. And I think that for your body to fluctuate from such severe cold to this warm status, I think, creates a lot of indigestion.
What I'm picturing, like, I've had that where you're in the car and you're not driving, but you see like lights on the ground and you get like this motion sickness, watery mouth feeling. Like that's what I'm picturing. Is
watery
that
mouth.
Is that the feeling that you're describing?
Mm-hmm. It was bad. I mean, I could not even, I mean, I couldn't take in anything. It was bad. And I was beat red on the run, and people were puking and people were passing out at the finish line. I mean, pros and amateurs. There was this heat stroke element that I was not anticipating at all. And, you know, I had underestimated how difficult it is for your system to be so cold and then get so warm. You know, doing Coeur d'Alene when it was 106 degrees, we were hot all day. I mean, obviously you're a little cold in the morning with the swim, but you know, you're hot on the bike, you're hot on the run, your body, your core temperature is pretty much status. A race like Indian Wells, your core temperature is fluctuating so significantly that's what creates the sickness.
Wow.
So I don't know how I would do it differently next time, but I'm sure that there's some growth there that could happen.
I'm sure you got somebody in your corner that could help you out.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Man. So being that we talked about your nutrition, so the day before you're going to bed at 9:00, you're waking up at what time in order to start heading to transition?
Probably 3:30.
3:30?
I was a little ways away from the transition too, so.
So you had to go to T2 and then get bused to T1 because
Correct.
There's another logistical step there you kind of have to think of. All right, I need to be here at this time to get there at what time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's...
And we had to be shuttled. You could not drive a car. You could not even be dropped off. So if you were going to have a car drive you, you would have had to be dropped off a mile and a half or 2 miles away. You couldn't do it. You had to ride the shuttle. So then there was congestion with the shuttle.
Wow.
Bad congestion.
That sucks. Like, I don't like that logistical issue because that would create so much anxiety with me. How was your anxiety while you're on the bus? While you're sitting here looking at your watch? Because you don't have your phone on you. You're just
I did.
Oh, you did have your phone.
I had my phone because my cute mommy was meeting me at the race. And so I knew I'd be able to give it to her, or at least I would text her and I would tell her like, it's, you know, next to this garbage can over in the park, you know. But I was listening to Demi Lovato's Skyscraper. Do you know that song?
I don't. Sing it for me.
No. No. You don't want that. You don't want that. I was listening to Demi Lovato on repeat the entire bus ride. And my teammate kept talking to me and I was like, I'm very busy with Demi Lovato over here. Like, can you please not bother me? I was just trying to calm myself down. Yeah, you'll have to listen to that song.
Man. So as you get to transition, what do you have in your T1 bag?
So I had my nutrition, my water bottle. I like to have an extra pack of blocks. I like to also have a goo. You just never know when you're going to drop something, right? And you never know what you're going to feel like. And then I have my salt, my base salt that I swear by. And, I have a Di2 bike, so I have to bring my battery with me so it doesn't die.
And you gotta make sure it's charged.
You gotta have to make sure it's charged. You know, a lot of athletes will leave it there overnight, not realizing that the cold or the heat, but you know, it's always the cold, will kill their battery. So you have to bring the battery in the morning, and you know, not too often, but there has been a time or two where I've heard athletes flipping out at the start, asking if anyone has an extra battery, which breaks my heart. I mean, it could happen to any of us.
Wow. How much are those batteries?
Yeah. I don't know. I need to buy a backup though. That's what I do know.
Wow.
Yeah. And then for this race, I had hand warmers because it was so freezing.
And a jacket.
And I had a jacket and I rode in my jacket. People, you know, style points were not awarded to me at this race, but that's okay.
You know, did you track Ironman Louisville this year?
A little bit.
So it was very, very cold. I was there volunteering, and I had an athlete on the race, and she wore a purple jacket as well.
Nice.
And
go purple.
There was pros that were DNFing. There were male pros that were wearing jackets. I mean, they didn't care. They were cold.
Yes. Yeah. People, and that's the thing about cyclists. I feel like cyclists are so into style points, and they need their kit to match it has to match their bike and their shoes and their glasses. And I'm like, I just need to be comfortable. I need to be comfortable and I have to be warm. And I get made fun of by all my buddies because I will wear booties, full on booties in August. If it's not 80 degrees, I am wearing booties. Like I am a wussy in the cold.
You don't want your feet to get cold.
No, not at all. I think that there's an actual disorder, a fear of the cold that might apply to me.
Wow. So
I know.
As you're getting to T1, you have 12 minutes before the start of the race.
Yeah. And that's probably being generous. It was probably closer to 10.
So you're getting there.
It was ridiculous.
So you're getting there about 6 o'clock in the morning.
And I was not on the last shuttle. No, it wasn't even, they closed transition. So the pros started at 6 or 6:02, the pro men.
Right.
They closed transition at like 5:40 or 5:35. They closed it very early.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know why they did that. There was a definite time discrepancy and everyone was freaking out about this rushed state. And they kept on saying the race will start on time. The race will start on time. I was shocked. I thought for sure they'd hold the race start for 10 minutes, but they said nope. And they were like, get your stuff out. The show must go on. So there was just panic. People were pissed, swearing. They were just like standing there peeing. The only other complaint I have about the entire race, other than some wild dogs on the bike course, there was not enough porta potties at all.
Really?
That was a for sure oversight. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find another one here in a minute.
Yeah.
So you have 10 minutes to put your nutrition on your bike, pump your tires up.
Yes. Which you couldn't do. If I brought a bike pump with me, thank God, which I almost didn't do. But for some reason I was like, this is a huge area. I brought my own bike pump, which everyone at this race should do. Which adds to the chaos if all these athletes have bike pumps, right? Had I not had a bike pump, my wheels would not have even been pumped up. There's no way.
Wow.
It was crazy.
I mean, luckily your mom was there enough to be a nice Sherpa, which is great.
Yes.
So after you get all that, you have about 5 minutes to hurry up and put your wetsuit on, which is always a fun thing to do when you're in a rush.
Oh, yeah. It was unbelievable.
If you haven't done that in a panic, it's a great way to start your day.
Ooh, yeah. And it's so, and that's where I feel like the mental toughness comes in, just trying to stay calm. I mean, it was a doozy. Yeah. I didn't get to warm up. I mean, nothing. There was no warm up. Yeah. There was no time.
So you get your wetsuit on, then you get down there to the swim start area. How are you bracing for impact with this cold water?
My mom was super calming and, she was like, you're fine. Just go have fun. You got it.
She's not getting in the water though.
Yeah, no. And she secretly worries so much, but she was like, you had a plan because I started panicking because no one was in booties.
And you were.
And I was in booties and, I was hypothermic and 10-degree warmer temperature, at least 8 degree. I think it was 10 warmer degree temperature in Santa Rosa, at Santa Rosa 70.3 last year. I almost had to pull out. I was so hypothermic until halfway through the run. And so I didn't have booties on that day. And so I knew that I needed my booties. And then I was like, Mom, nobody has booties on. Like nobody even has a thermal cap on. And she was like, get it together. This was your plan. You don't ever alter your plan. And my mom was a marathoner, a successful marathoner. And she was like, no, leave your booties on. Had she not been there, I probably would have taken them off and then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Man. So the race organizers, they understood that this was going to be a wetsuit legal race because they had the kiddie pools there to sanitize the wetsuits. That's a given, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure that we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
So you get off in the swim. How does the swim go for you?
So my average heart rate was 170, I think 173. Yikes, which I would never choose to do, but I was too cold. So, my body was flipping out.
You had a sub 30-minute swim. Just great in my book.
Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't get control over my breathing. And so at one point I just said, forget it, just like, this is not going well. Just make it work, just get through it. I let go of how fast I was swimming. And, I felt like I wasn't keeping up with the boys, which I like to try to do, but I just let it go. I really liked the swim course. It was different. It was sort of like an obstacle course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you had to swim through these two buoys in the center and you had to go through the buoys. And I thought that was kind of fun. You had to be a little more focused on sighting. It was impossible to sight with the sun.
Right.
And I know that it's regularly very difficult to sight, but it was very difficult sighting. But I thought that was kind of fun. It added to the chaos of the whole scenario.
So as far as the swim goes, did you get hit and kicked it a lot?
I got hit in the face once, but I felt like it was a very polite swim. I felt very grateful.
Wow.
It's not always that way.
So whenever you got out of the water, you entered T1.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have wetsuit strippers there?
They did not have wetsuit strippers.
Even though they knew it was going to be a wetsuit legal swim?
Yes. Unless I'm remembering incorrectly. No, I don't think there was wetsuit strippers. I will say that I come out of the water, fortunately, when T1 is not as congested as it is for a lot of other swimmers, but I felt like the volunteers were very helpful and, that eased the stress a bit.
Okay.
A lot of times they don't know what to do. And I felt like they're well
just
educated.
Standing around going, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
And they're like, good job.
Yeah, I'm clapping for you. Clap. Good job.
And I'm like, thanks, but
I need sunscreen. I need XYZ. Show me where to go.
Yeah. But there was lots of chairs, so I was able to sit in a chair, which I appreciated. And yeah.
Wow. So as you get out of T1 and you head out on the bike ride, how was this first few miles for you? I know it's a little rough roads there.
Lots of potholes, lots and lots of potholes, which I knew going into it. And I was just praying for no flats. But with that said, the potholes were a nightmare, but I loved the bike course. I thought it was a great bike course.
Even though they changed it the day before?
Yeah, but they changed it in a very positive way. They took out a bad section.
I saw that section they took out.
It was no joke.
Yeah.
So prior to finding out that they had removed that section, I rode that section. And I was like, this is not good. This is not good at all. And I'm one of the first swimmers out, but I'm such a shoddy cyclist. I get passed and passed and passed and passed some more. And a lot of the guys, the aggro front pack guys that pass me are not always that courteous. They're much more courteous towards the back, in my professional opinion. And so with all those potholes, I was really worried because you can't ride on the right side of the road. You can't
ride the line that you want to ride.
No, you cannot. You pretty much had to ride in the center of the road. And you've got these aggro dudes coming by you, and they're like, get out of my way, girl, but it was decent. Wow. It was tolerable.
So with this, you rode 95 PSI in the front and 100 in the back. Was this too much, you think, or would you have went a little bit easier?
I go back and forth, the whole new rolling resistance, low PSI, I can't get behind. I don't, hashtag bike stupid. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. I go back and forth.
And the numbers talk for themselves.
Oh my
God. In theory,
God.
they should, but.
Oh, I worry about it. So
to put your mind at ease, I've had a 235-pound guy on here named Ben Miller. He has a P5X, and he rode 85 PSI on it. Just putting that out there. He did ride 85 PSI.
Yeah.
I think it was for Haines City this year, so it was like episode 30-something, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he rode 85 PSI. And he's
I need to have an open mind.
So he weighs a little bit more than you, and a lot lower PSI.
Oh, I need to wrap my head around that.
Bike.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And he wrecked it in that race.
Oh, shoot. That's no good.
Yeah. Something about PC stuff that he's using. I don't know. It's craziness.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Hashtag PC.
Yeah. I'll work on the rolling resistance.
Yes.
I need to be better educated.
Yeah. So on the bike ride, how are the aid stations?
I thought they were great. I thought they were a little further apart maybe than they sometimes are, but I thought they were great. I thought they were great. Nice.
So on the bike ride, is there anything worth mentioning that you would tell someone to be aware of that hasn't done this course before?
Yes, there is. So there are a bunch of palm farms out there, which are beautiful, and it's so unique, and it's what makes this race so special. Palm Springs is so beautiful anyway. But there is a known section which I haven't finished following up with Ironman about. There's a known section of road out there that all the local cyclists avoid because there are wild dogs that live out there and they will attack you. So unfortunately, somehow there was a disconnect between the local cyclists that I'm sure Ironman spoke to, and the actual course mapping, and planning that went into this race. And we biked directly through this palm farm area with wild dogs that were in fact trying to attack. They were trying to bite. They weren't trying to bark you off of their road. They were trying to actually attack.
Wow.
It was very scary. Mm-hmm.
Man. So you biked 243.43. How did your bike feel for you?
It felt okay. I was just trying to hold back and not, burn all the matches.
Right.
I was coughing. I had bronchitis going into this. So I think coming out of the water with having such a high heart rate, I struggled on the bike for sure. So I was just trying to be chill and, keep my sights on the run. And I wanted to really push my run. So.
Wow. So did you know that you were in the lead of your age group on the bike ride?
I did not. I felt like I had such a shoddy swim that I didn't think I was first out of the water in my age group. And there was a couple other women in the tent. So I just assumed, and I didn't look at my watch. I didn't want to look at my watch. If I'm feeling negative, I don't look at my watch, for right or for wrong. And then I was paying attention to the women that were passing me on the bike. And I anticipate getting passed on the bike. It used to really bother me. I used to, get a little negative, and now I just know to expect it, and it's okay. Some of them come back to me on the run and some of them never do because they're superior athletes, but it's okay.
Yeah. Man. So as far as the T2 goes, you get to T2. How does T2 go for you?
It was good. It was really good. It was smooth. A lot of people have faster transitions, but I just try to take my time. I've rushed transitions before and I've forgotten important items. And so I think it's better to take your time personally.
Gotcha.
And it was T2 was a really very well orchestrated transition. It was as perfect as I think they can be.
Wow. So whenever you get out on the run, what's your mindset for the run? Did you realize where you were in the race? Did you look at your overall time? Did you know what kind of day was coming out?
I looked in the beginning, but I felt so sick that I just decided to stop looking at my watch. I was looking at my mile per hour time, and I know what I'm capable of running. Had I looked at my heart rate, I probably would have slowed down a little bit. So I avoided looking at that. And I mean, I just felt so sick on the run that I eventually stopped looking at my watch altogether.
Wow.
I was paying attention to the women somewhat, but then it just became survival. And, at that point I just wanted to finish. So.
Wow. So you said earlier you weren't executing your nutrition plan on the bike ride on the run because
on the run. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
felt sick.
Yeah. That nauseous feeling. Did that ever go away? Did you have cramping because of it?
I felt one step away from booting it was like, watery mouth, the whole run.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. I was one step away.
Gosh. So as far as the run goes, how hard was the run for you?
I mean, it was a super solid effort. I just decided to put it all out there. And,
you had a 1:36 run, which is phenomenal on the back of all of this. I mean, it's a solid run.
I was super happy with it. Yeah. And I loved the run course. I think people were surprised by the run course. Whenever it's the first year of a race, you never know exactly what to expect. And they had told us it would be on the cart paths in the golf course, but you actually did a lot of off-road running, cutting from one path to another over grass, over, some sort of gravel type dirt. It was like a cross country course for sure, which I thought was really fun and different.
Right. Cause you've done cross country before.
Yeah. I loved it. Yeah. But I think a lot of your road runners were not expecting that. And it was different for Ironman for sure.
Man. So as you're entering the final few miles, how do these feel for you? Are they getting better, worse? Well,
they were terrible, but the pros, were running by, and that was fun and inspiring. And, I felt like it was a nice group of women at this race, especially for such a competitive race. People were encouraging and positive, which I always appreciate. I'm pretty susceptible to energy and negative energy. And it felt very positive to me. Yeah, it was good. I thought it was a great run course. I loved it.
Wow. So as you get closer and closer to the finish line, how is the finish line experience here? I know you've done Kona, so nothing's really going to touch that, but how is it here?
I thought it was good. It wasn't my favorite finish line per se, but, I was also so sick that, sometimes it's hard to tell, was it the finish line or was it just how sick I was? But finishing in the tennis center was great, and they had accommodations, and you could go, people were drinking champagne and beer, and, that's like the Santa Rosa experience, which is always fun. I think, I feel like it adds to the social aspect, and athletes are hanging out with other athletes, in a way that isn't at every finish line. It's not always like that. I thought it was a good finish line. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't my least favorite either.
Right. So after you finished, you went to the award ceremony because you would end up getting second in your division. How was this award ceremony for you?
It was good. I felt like there was a lot of people there. There isn't always. It was a really fun environment. And again, it's because it was in the middle of the tennis center. And so it was fun. And everyone was drinking champagne and beer and people were totally partying. It was a party atmosphere, which is so fun.
Wow. So you got a roll down slot for Nice.
Yes.
Are you going to go to Nice?
I am. I'm planning on it. Yeah.
Wow. That is awesome.
Thank you. I'm excited. Who doesn't want to go to Nice, right?
Well, I would if it wasn't so expensive.
I know. So, it is. Man, so for sure.
To kind of wrap things up here, if you could pass on one piece of advice for new people doing this race next year, what advice would you give them?
Well, certainly that water temp is not going to be any warmer next year. It's not like this was a one-off. As it turns out, that lake water comes from the Colorado River. So it will be a cold race next year. So I would say come prepared for that in a way that I think probably a lot of athletes were not. And, you assume it's Palm Springs. How cold could it be? But it is really that cold. Hopefully they'll figure out the wild dogs and they'll alter the course yet again a little bit and avoid that stretch.
And have wetsuit strippers. I mean, why not?
They should probably have some wetsuit strippers for sure, especially because you're so hyperthermic, right? I mean, you're so cold at the very least. No, you have, your hands are wrecked. It's impossible. And then I would say for the run to really be prepared for a run, on a course like that, do some trail running. Absolutely.
Wow. So do you have anything else you want to add about your race that we didn't cover?
I don't think so.
Wow.
It's a fun race. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. So how can people follow you?
I'm on Instagram. Barkley Hope is my Insta.
All right.
Do
you have a blog or anything like that?
I don't.
Okay.
I know. I should, but I don't.
Wow. So I only have one more question for you, and that's, what's your definition of a perfect race?
So I think a perfect race is less about the outcome and more about the overall effort, which includes, it's not just your physical output, it's your mental, it's your mental race also, and your ability to overcome all the various things that go wrong for all of us in every race. I think that's how I define a perfect race, I would say.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, Barkley, it's been awesome hearing from you. Congratulations on your slots in Nice. And
thank you.
I'd love to have you back on after Nice.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to learn something from today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you'd like to see pictures from this athlete's race, learn more about who I am, what I'm doing, or be on the show yourself to share your story, check out my website at CoachTerryWilson.com. Until next time, continue the pursuit.